The fifth time Ethan Hayes' name graced the cover of Forbes, I was in a Brooklyn basement, ironing a custom gown that belonged to someone else. The steam blurred my vision, and with it, the chiseled yet utterly unfamiliar face staring out from the old television mounted on the wall. Mr. Hayes, a reporter with flawless makeup, held a microphone to his lips, her voice tinged with just the right amount of awe. In 5 years, you've gone from an obscure medical student to a titan of the tech and biotech industries, building a $100 billion empire. Everyone wants to know, what is the secret to your success? The corner of Ethan's mouth lifted into a smile I once knew so well, but now it was laced with icy mockery. His narrow eyes swept over the camera, as if they could pierce through time and space to drive a stake straight into my heart. The secret? He scoffed, his voice tinny through the cheap television speakers. Find a girlfriend you love, one who's a ruthless gold digger. Then just wait for her to dump you for money the second you hit rock bottom. The studio erupted. By that afternoon, the headline, "Billionaire Ethan Hayes reveals devastating betrayal by ex-girlfriend," had gone viral across every social media platform in New York. And I, Chloe Miller, had just finished my 8th part-time job of the day. On the way to pick up my daughter, Sophie, from kindergarten, my heart, worn down by chronic exhaustion, simply stopped. When I opened my eyes again, I was floating in midair, my form as light as a wisp of smoke. Below me was my beat-up old car, its door still ajar. My body was slumped limply in the driver's seat, my face a deathly gray. The panicked screams of passers-by mingled with the wail of ambulance sirens, creating a piercing cacophony. I was dead. Despair washed over me, a cold and drowning sea. But then, a single thought jolted through me. Sophie. My daughter was still waiting for me at kindergarten. I flew desperately in the direction of the school, driven by that one thought. But when I finally reached the familiar, colorful little building, I saw him. The one person I never wanted to see again, and the one person my subconscious craved. Ethan Hayes, the man who had sworn he would make me regret it for the rest of my life, was standing right in front of my daughter. "Mr. Hayes, this is the Sophie Miller you were looking for. Her mother picks her up from school every day." An overly solicitous teacher led Ethan to his daughter, who was quietly drawing. "Mister, who are you looking for?" 5-year-old Sophie looked up, her crystal-clear blue eyes curiously studying the tall man before her. Ethan's body stiffened for a moment. He slowly crouched down, trying to bring his gaze level with his daughter's. "I'm looking for Chloe Miller. Do you know where she is?" His voice was much hoarser and deeper than I remembered. Sophie blinked, a sweet smile spreading across her face. "Are you looking for my mommy? She's at work." Ethan's face darkened. "She has to work? Then what about your father? Can't he even support his own wife and daughter?" There was a hint of barely suppressed anger in his tone. My daughter pouted and explained earnestly, "My daddy works very far away. Mommy says daddy works really, really hard out there, and he has to earn lots and lots of money every day." Her little face was filled with pride. "When he's earned enough money, he'll come back and get us." She looked at Ethan expectantly and asked, "Mister, do you know my daddy?" But Ethan's expression grew even darker, like the sky before a storm. "I don't," he bit out coldly, standing up to leave. He stopped at the door, his steps faltering. He turned back, his gaze complex as he re-examined my daughter's features. Those eyes, that small nose. In his eyes, there was a glimmer of hope he himself hadn't even noticed. "How old are you?" My daughter paused, about to count on her fingers, when the teacher beside them eagerly cut in. "Sophie's 6. She just started kindergarten this year." My soul jolted, and then I remembered. When my daughter was born, I was suffocating under the massive debt left behind after my father's company went bankrupt. So I could send her to preschool early and free up more time to work, I had steeled my heart and registered her as being a year older than she was. I screamed in anguish, wanting to explain, but no sound came out. Ethan, no. Go check. I'm begging you. Check her birth certificate. Sophie is your daughter. She's only 5. You can't abandon her. 6. Ethan froze on the spot, that faint glimmer of hope instantly turning to ice. The look in his eyes as he gazed at my daughter shifted from complex to one of deep disgust. "Heh! Chloe Miller, you're really something else. he muttered, as if mocking his own foolishness. We broke up 5 years ago, and the kid is 6. He laughed, but the rims of his eyes turned red against his will. Pretend I was never here today. He brushed away the teacher's hand as she tried to stop him and strode out of the room. I chased after his resolute back, screaming silently, Ethan, don't go. If you leave, what will happen to our daughter? How will she survive all alone? No one could hear my pleas. Ethan's pace never faltered. Just as he was about to step out of the classroom, my daughter seemed to remember something and subconsciously called out in a small voice, Daddy. Ethan's entire body went rigid. He whipped his head around, staring at my daughter in disbelief. What? What did you call me? Sophie seemed to realize she called out to the wrong person, and a shy blush crept across her fair little face. I'm sorry, mister. I thought you were my daddy, she said in a small voice. The picture Mommy keeps locked in a drawer, the man's back in it. It looks a lot like yours. The last spark of light in Ethan's eyes was extinguished, replaced by a dead emptiness. He shot a look of disgust at my daughter's face, which so closely resembled mine, and left without looking back again. Night fell, and the neon lights of New York City began to glow. The children at the kindergarten had long been picked up by their parents, the sounds of laughter and chatter fading into silence. Only Sophie was left, sitting all alone in the classroom, coloring on a piece of paper with her crayons. This is Mommy, this is Daddy, and this is me, she whispered to herself, telling a little story as she drew. When she got to me, she instinctively glanced toward the classroom door, her little face filled with expectation. She was waiting for me to push open the door, just like always, wave gently to her and say, Sophie, Mommy's here to get you. Let's go home. The 37th time she looked toward the door, it finally swung open. But it wasn't me. Sophie Miller, where on earth is your mother? Why won't she answer her phone? Miss Davison, her teacher, snapped as she slammed the phone down, a sour, cruel look on her face. Don't tell me she's so busy with some rich, old man that she's forgotten all about her little burden. My soul trembled with rage. I couldn't believe such venomous words could come from the mouth of someone who was supposed to be a role model for children. Sophie seemed used to such taunts. She silently tightened her grip on her crayon and retorted in a small voice, My Mommy's not like that. She will come for me. Miss Davison scoffed, her eyes sweeping disdainfully over Sophie's faded, worn-out clothes. Don't act so high and mighty. I've heard from the other parents. Your mother will do any kind of work to make money. Her voice was filled with contempt. Forget just keeping old men company. For the right price, she'd do anything. I have no idea why the director ever accepted a child like you. You're just bad luck. With that, she roughly snatched the drawing from my daughter's hands, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it on the floor. Then she shoved her toward the office phone. Hurry up and call someone. Get that irresponsible mother of yours to come get you. Don't make me late for my date. Little Sophie stumbled from the push, biting her lip to keep from crying, her small, thin body trembling uncontrollably. My heart ached to hug her, but every time I reached out, my hands passed right through her body. Sophie was a good girl. She didn't cry. Instead, she took a practiced deep breath and whispered to herself, Sophie doesn't cry. Mommy will worry. Sophie loves Mommy the most. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, stood on her tiptoes, and with a trembling little hand, painstakingly dialed my number on the old rotary phone. The phone rang in the empty classroom before switching to voicemail. Mommy, are you working late again? Are you tired? My daughter asked, her voice artificially cheerful. Sophie was a very good girl at school today. I ate all my food and didn't run around. When are you coming to take me home? The line went dead. No one answered. Sophie clutched the receiver, her expression vacant. After a long moment, she sighed like a little grown-up. Mommy must be busy making money again, she muttered to herself as she put down the receiver. But that's okay. Sophie knows Mommy works really hard. Sophie will take care of herself. She picked up the crayon the teacher had thrown away, ready to start drawing again, but her stomach chose that moment to grumble loudly. So hungry. She rummaged through her little backpack, but it was empty. She checked her cubby, too, but found nothing. Every afternoon, the kindergarten gave the children a snack. But Sophie's portion was always snatched away by the meanest boy in the class the moment it was handed out. When she told the teacher, Miss Davison would always say, "Sophie, you're a girl. Can't you just let the boys have it? They need it to grow big and strong. Why do you have to be so stingy and petty?" Finally, Sophie's gaze fell on the trash can in the corner. Inside was half a cookie, thrown away by another child. She hesitated for a long time, but eventually her hunger won out over her pride. She walked to the trash can and, fighting back a wave of nausea, reached in and picked up the dust-covered cookie. She carefully blew the dust off it, swallowed hard, and with a trembling hand, slowly brought the cookie to her mouth. Just as the cookie was about to touch her lips, a harsh shout erupted from the doorway. "Sophie Miller!" Miss Davison stormed in and slapped the cookie out of my daughter's hand. Seeing the terrified and bewildered look in her daughter's eyes, Miss Davidson's rage found an outlet. She grabbed the tender flesh of Sophie's arm, twisting and pinching with all her might. "Thief! I'll teach you to steal," she snarled. "Tell me, where did you steal the snack from? When did you take it?" "Teacher, I didn't steal anything. I found it in the trash." Sophie's eyes streamed with tears from the pain as she tried to explain. "Teacher, it hurts. Please stop pinching me." I surged forward in a rage, trying to pull the woman's hand away, but it was futile. Watching my daughter's pained tears, a flicker of sick pleasure crossed Miss Davidson's eyes. "Found it? Who would believe that? Everyone in this preschool knows your family is the poorest. Poor people are always doing sneaky, thieving things." In less than a minute, my daughter's pale arm was covered in bruised, purple fingerprints. Sophie's initial struggles and cries of pain turned into desperate, terrified trembling. "Teacher, I really didn't steal anything. Teacher, please don't hit me. Mommy will be sad if she sees." My daughter's words seemed to provoke Miss Davidson. She sneered, shoving Sophie roughly to the floor. "Learned to use your shameless mother to threaten me, have you? It seems you haven't learned your lesson." She grabbed Sophie by the hair and dragged her to the lockers at the back of the classroom. "Get in there. You can come out when you admit you stole something." Gazing at the dark, narrow locker, raw fear flashed in Sophie's eyes. "No, teacher. I'm sorry. Please don't shut me in there." Her sobs were heart-wrenching. Mommy, where are you? Help Sophie. Sophie doesn't want to be locked up. Mommy, Sophie's scared." My heart felt like it was being sawed apart by a dull knife. I wanted so badly to tell her, "Don't be afraid. Sophie, Mommy's right here. Mommy will protect you." But no matter how loud I screamed, no one could hear me. I was just inches away, yet I could only watch helplessly as my 5-year-old daughter was slandered, abused, and locked away in that dark corner that symbolized a childhood nightmare. Miss Davidson's patience had run out. She clicked her tongue in annoyance, forced Sophie into the locker, and then locked the door with a sharp click. Next, she turned off all the classroom lights, leaving only a dead, silent darkness. "I hate you poor feral kids. Disgusting," she muttered in disgust, then turned and left. Inside the locker, my daughter hugged her knees, crying until her voice was hoarse. Meanwhile, in a brightly lit office in downtown Manhattan, a sharp pain suddenly pierced Ethan Hayes' heart. He frowned in irritation, his cold gaze sweeping over his subordinate. "Any news on Chloe Miller?" The subordinate wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and answered timidly, "Mr. Hayes, we've learned that Ms. Miller's colleagues said she took the day off, apparently for her daughter's birthday. She left work over an hour ago, but for some reason, she still hasn't picked up her child." He then suggested cautiously, "Sir, it's almost dark. Perhaps you should go get the child." Ethan was silent for a moment. Then, for reasons unknown, the corner of his mouth curved into an icy smile. "No, she's not my daughter." Inside the locker, time seemed to stretch on forever. Darkness and fear were like two invisible hands, gripping Sophie's throat. She had cried until she had no tears left, her small body trembling nonstop from the cold and the fear. My own soul felt frozen, able only to stay with her helplessly, feeling her despair. Just then, the classroom lights suddenly flickered on, and a gentle male voice called out, "Sophie! Sophie Miller!" A glimmer of light sparked in Sophie's eyes. She pounded on the locker door with all her strength, shouting, Mr. Clark, I'm in here. The door swung open. The male teacher, Mr. Clark, stood outside, a gentle smile on his face as he lifted Sophie out of the darkness. Sophie, are you all right? Sophie wiped her tears away and managed a smile of pure relief. Mr. Clark, did you come to save me? The man's eyes darkened. His gaze on Sophie took on an adult aggression that had no place between a teacher and a student. Of course. Teacher came to save Sophie. Sophie nodded innocently, looking at him with gratitude. But every hair on my body stood on end. A bone-deep chill spread from the depths of my soul. I screamed my daughter's name, telling her to run fast. But Sophie couldn't hear me. She was still speaking earnestly to the man. Mr. Clark, my mommy hasn't come to get me yet. Can you please call her for me? Clark swallowed, then reached out and stroked my daughter's fair, delicate cheek. Don't worry, Sophie. Why don't you play a little game with teacher first, okay? Teacher likes you very, very much. Sophie froze. I had taught her about boundaries, that no one was allowed to touch her body without permission. She instinctively took 2 steps back, her voice now laced with wariness and fear. Mr. Clark, I don't want to play a game. I want my mommy. I threw myself in front of my daughter like a lioness protecting her cub, roaring at him silently. A look of impatience flashed in the man's eyes. He backed my daughter directly into a corner. Be a good girl. Listen to me. Uncle just wants to play with you a little. As he spoke, he grabbed my daughter's hand. With his other greasy hand, he forced up her skirt. I went insane. I lunged at him, tearing, biting, clawing, attacking him in every way I could imagine, but it was all useless. Asterisk Sophie, run. Run. Asterisk no one could hear me. My daughter struggled in terror, crying and trying to break free from his grip. Let go of me. Mommy, Mommy, where are you? I'm scared, Mommy. Her heart-wrenching screams finally carried outside the classroom. Miss Davison, the teacher who had locked my daughter in the locker, was drawn by the sound. When she saw what was happening in the classroom, flames of jealousy and fury ignited in her eyes. Clark, what the hell are you doing? The man froze, guiltily pulling his hand back. Miss Davison scoffed, strode over to Sophie in her high heels, and slapped her hard across the face. You little slut. I knew you were trouble. Learning to seduce men at your age. She spat. Just like that whore of a mother you have. She drove the heel of her high-heeled shoe viciously into my daughter's frail chest. Sophie collapsed to the floor in pain, a trickle of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. But she still retorted defiantly, You're lying. Mommy would never leave me. Mommy loves me the most. After saying it, she finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Miss Davison pulled the man up in disgust and turned to leave, cursing as she walked away. How many times have I told you? She's just a little bastard. Why would you touch her? Aren't you afraid of getting dirty? Clark shrugged nonchalantly. What's there to be afraid of? Her family has no money and no power. Her mom probably can't even take care of herself. You think she's going to sue us? Their voices gradually faded away, leaving Sophie alone on the cold floor, her clothes in disarray, her body covered in bruises. Mommy! She stared at the empty doorway, the light in her wide eyes dimming bit by bit. When are you coming to take me home? I miss you so much. I knelt before my daughter, tears from my soul falling like pearls from a broken string. I wanted to hold her, to tell her everything would be all right. I wanted to protect her, to shield her from all the evil in the world. I wanted to tell her, asterisk Sophie, Mommy's here. Mommy is always here, asterisk, but I couldn't do a thing. Was I supposed to let my daughter know her mother was right in front of her, yet could only watch helplessly as she was hurt? What was I supposed to do? Moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating a drawing on my daughter's desk, a crookedly drawn family of 3. Daddy! Ethan Hayes! I wiped away my tears and placed an ethereal kiss on my daughter's forehead. Then, with all my might, I floated out of the kindergarten. I knew it was probably useless, but if there was even a 1 in a million chance, I had to try for my daughter. Ethan's car was, just as I thought, still parked on a street corner not far from the kindergarten. He hadn't left. Inside the car, Sophie's timid daddy echoed in his mind. Sophie! Sophie! He muttered, his fingers turning white as he gripped the steering wheel. He scoffed at his own sentimentality, but he couldn't control the pull that little face had on him. She's not my kid. What am I wasting my time here for? He laughed at himself and started the engine. I pounded frantically on the car window, screaming, Asterisk, don't go. Please, Ethan, don't go. Go see our child. Save her, asterisk. Just as the car was about to pull away, I focused all of my will, screaming his name with every fiber of my being. Ethan Hayes! This time, my voice seemed to break through the barrier. The car screeched to a halt. The color drained from Ethan's face, his eyes instantly reddening. Chloe! Is that you? Chloe! Show yourself! He threw open the door and jumped out, looking around wildly, his voice thick with 5 years of suppressed pain and rage. Chloe, come out! How dare you hide from me? Just then, the wail of sirens grew closer, and 2 police cars screeched to a halt at the intersection. Several officers got out. One of them, a young policewoman with red-rimmed eyes, was holding my ID. Excuse me, are you Mr. Ethan Hayes? The policewoman asked, her voice cracking. Do you know the woman on this ID, Chloe Miller? Ethan's heart sank. Her body was found an hour ago on Yuanshan Road. The cause of death was cardiac arrest from overwork. Ethan's world shattered. He staggered back against his car, his eyes completely bloodshot. What did you say? At that same moment, a girl's terrified scream rang out again from inside the kindergarten. The color drained from the faces of Ethan and the officers. They immediately rushed toward the classroom. When they burst through the classroom door, they were met with a sight that made everyone's blood run cold. Mr. Clark was pinning Sophie into a corner, a sinister grin plastered on his face. The girl's hoarse sobs and the man's triumphant panting pierced the silence of the empty classroom. Mommy! Help me! Sophie cried out in despair. My eyes burned with fury. I lunged forward like a madwoman, only to pass right through the monster's body again and again. In that instant, Ethan's composure shattered. He lunged forward like an enraged lion and sent Clark sprawling with a single brutal punch. You animal! Heavy blows rained down as Clark curled up on the floor, howling in agony. The female officer seized the opportunity, rushing over to scoop the trembling Sophie into her arms and quickly retreating to a safe distance. Stop! The male officer shouted, pulling Ethan back. He pinned Clark to the floor with his knee and slapped on the handcuffs. If it weren't for this uniform, he growled, I'd kill you myself, you piece of shit. The female officer, her heart aching, examined Sophie's injuries. She glared at Clark, her voice filled with rage. How could you lay a hand on a child this small? Clark's eyes darted around, and he began to cry foul. I've been framed. I just saw her crying in the classroom by herself, and came over to comfort her. Ask her if you don't believe me. As he spoke, he shot Sophie a menacing glare. Sophie flinched and burrowed deeper into the officer's arms. Ethan knelt, stroking Sophie's hair with a gentleness I'd never seen from him. Sophie, don't be afraid. I'm your mom's friend. The word came out with difficulty. Can you tell me what happened? Sophie blinked her tear-filled eyes, peeking up at Ethan. His face slowly merged with the one in the photograph from her mom's drawer. Do you promise you won't tell my mommy? She asked between sobs. My tears broke free. My poor daughter. Even at a time like this, she was still worried about making me sad. When Ethan nodded, Sophie finally summoned her courage and said in a voice as faint as a whisper, Miss Davidson said I stole something, so she locked me in a closet. Then Mr. Clark came. He said he wanted to play a game. I said no, so he lifted my dress. Though her voice was quiet, the words landed like a bombshell. Clark was still shouting, Don't listen to her. She's a notorious liar at the school. She threw herself at me, crying that her mother didn't want her anymore. Just then, Miss Davidson burst into the room, screaming. She threw herself in front of Clark. What gives you the right to assault him? We were just disciplining a student. At the sight of her, Sophie instinctively tightened her grip on the officer's sleeve, revealing the angry bruises on her wrist. And how do you explain these? The female officer demanded. I was just disciplining her for stealing food. It was nothing. Miss Davidson stammered, averting her gaze. Sophie burst into a fresh wave of sobs. I didn't steal. I just found a little cookie in the trash. I was just so hungry. It was like a knife twisting in Ethan's gut. He glared at the two so-called educators, his eyes full of contempt. You two don't deserve to be called teachers. You have no proof. You can't convict us based on the word of a child. Miss Davidson was still defiant. Proof, another officer said, walking over with an evidence bag. We found this barrette in the closet. It's a perfect match for the one still in this little girl's hair. You two are coming with us. In the police station, two teachers were being led away for questioning. Ethan held a cotton swab dipped in iodine, gently dabbing at the cuts on Sophie's body, the heartbreak in his eyes threatening to spill over. Sophie sat quietly in a chair, hugging a teddy bear a policewoman had given her. Seeing his red-rimmed eyes, she thoughtfully held the bear out to him. Dad! Uncle, don't worry. It doesn't hurt. That one word, Dad, blurted out, made his hand freeze. He lowered his head and gently blew on the cut on her wrist. Uncle, Sophie asked in a small voice, do you know where my mommy is? Why hasn't she come to get me yet? Ethan fell silent. He'd hated me for 5 years, yet the moment the news of my death arrived, his entire world lost its color. He looked at the face before him, which bore a striking resemblance to mine, and subconsciously asked a question that had long troubled him. Why haven't you contacted your dad? Sophie shook her head, her expression forlorn. I've never met my dad. What? As long as I can remember, it's just been me and Mommy. But she told me my dad is a really great, amazing person. She said that when he'd earned enough money, he would come back to get us. Ethan frowned and cursed under his breath. That irresponsible bastard. Hey, why are you cursing yourself? I thought helplessly. An officer came out of the interrogation room, his face grim. These two refused to confess, and the school's security cameras just so happened to be broken. Gathering evidence is going to be difficult. Ethan's face darkened. He took out his phone and made a call. Find me the best legal team in all of New York. Price is no object. I just want to win. Hanging up, he said to the officer, Please help me contact this child's biological father. After all, the officer shook his head. We've already checked. Chloe Miller was unmarried when she gave birth. The space for the father's name is blank. Something exploded in Ethan's mind. Unmarried blank, but the teacher's words echoed in his ears. Sophie is 6 years old. 5 years. 6 years old. The timeline didn't add up. Just then, another officer handed him a document. Mr. Hayes, since the child's mother has passed, and she has no other immediate family, could you please help fill out this form? Ethan took it, confused. What is this? An orphanage intake form. The officer sighed. When the sole guardian is deceased and the child is unable to survive independently, they have to be sent to a social services facility. With a soft thud, the small cake in Sophie's hand fell to the floor. Her little face turned deathly pale, and she rushed over to grab the officer's pant leg. Uncle, please, don't send me to an orphanage, okay? I have to wait for my mommy to come home. My soul wailed in anguish. My daughter, she's so little. How can she go to a place like that all alone? From the corner came the sound of Sophie's suppressed sobs. Where's my mommy? Why hasn't she come for me yet? I want my mommy. The male officer couldn't bear it. He crouched down and explained in a gentle way. Sophie, Mommy was very, very tired. She needed to go to a place far, far away to take a long, long vacation. Sophie froze, her voice thick with tears as she retorted, No way. Mommy loves me the most. She would never leave me all alone. Ethan couldn't hold back any longer. He swept her into his arms, holding her tightly and patting her back again and again. Sophie, don't be scared. Uncle is here. I could only stand to the side, sobbing uncontrollably. Asterisk Ethan, I'm begging you, help our child. Don't let her grow up alone, asterisk. Sophie cried in Ethan's arms for a long time, finally falling into an exhausted sleep as dawn broke. Ethan looked at the sleeping girl in his arms. Even in her sleep, her small body still hitched with sobs. His heart ached for her, and he held her tighter. Then he rose gently to his feet, walked over to the officer, and asked in a hoarse voice, If I wanted to adopt her, what's the procedure? When Ethan returned with the temporary guardianship papers, he ran right into Davidson and Clark, who had just been bailed out. We're innocent. That child is lying. Miss Davidson spotted Sophie immediately, pointing a finger and shrieking with pure hatred. Her mother does that kind of filthy work for a living. What good could possibly come from a child she raised? Clark quickly chimed in. That's right. She's the one who came on to me. Officer, you can't believe a word from a little liar. Sophie stood frozen in place, whispering helplessly. No, I didn't. Her mother's dead. Davidson crowed, a triumphant smile spreading across her face as if she'd just made a brilliant discovery. With no guardian, you don't even have the grounds to press charges. I suggest you let us go right now. And when I get out, I'll make sure every preschool in New York blacklists this little bitch. Clark, meanwhile, fixed Sophie with an icy stare. Sophie, once you're in the orphanage, I'll have some people I know take good care of you. The blatant threat made everyone in the room gasp. Ethan's teeth ground together. He instinctively pulled Sophie behind him, shielding her with his body, his gaze murderous. You two better remember what you said today, because I will spend every day for the rest of your lives making you pay for it. You think money makes you invincible? Clark sneered, brandishing his phone. I was recording when you hit me. If anything unfortunate happens to us, everyone's first suspect will be you, Ethan Hayes. What do you think the headlines will say then? Billionaire brutalizes teachers in defense of mistress's child. How do you think your company's stock will look after that? The police officer's gaze on Ethan turned wary. The child's mother had just passed away, and this man was already desperate to adopt her. It was, admittedly, suspicious. The tension in the room stretched to a breaking point. Just then, Sophie gently let go of Ethan's hand. Mister, I'm sorry. I can't go with you. A flicker of hurt crossed Ethan's eyes. Sophie! My daughter lifted her head to look at Ethan, the man before her once again merging with the photograph from the drawer. With tears in her eyes, she shook her head. Mister, you're Mommy's only friend. I don't want to get you in trouble because of me. That would make Mommy sad. Ethan's heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces. Just then, his assistant rushed in, looking frantic, and thrust a file into his hands. Sir, I have the results of the investigation you requested. The assistant's voice trembled with excitement. According to the hospital's birth records, Miss Sophie Miller's exact date of birth was 5 years ago. She is, in fact, only 5 years old. And according to our investigation, after Sophie's mother, Ms. Miller, separated from you, she spent the entire time working alone to pay off debts, and she never dated another man. Ethan's hand trembled, and the papers scattered to the floor like snowflakes. The entire world fell silent. My daughter looked at Ethan, bewildered and surprised, her gaze shifting to the others in the room. Finally, timidly, in a wavering voice thick with tears and infinite hope, she asked the question. So, Mister, are you my daddy? The man who always stood ramrod straight, as if he could carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, bent over for the very first time. He pulled his daughter into his arms, holding her tightly, so tightly, and like a child himself, he let out a choked, repressed sob. Sophie, I'm so sorry. Daddy's late. Daddy's been looking for you for 5 years. It's all my fault. I stood to the side, my hand clamped over my mouth as tears streamed down my face. My daughter, she finally has a father. What happened next fell into place, naturally. Ethan, in his capacity as the biological father, formally filed a lawsuit against Davidson and Clark. The top legal team in all of New York quickly gathered sufficient evidence of their child abuse, even finding several parents of children they had bullied who had been too afraid to speak up. Driven by the media, the case captured the public's attention. The preschool was shut down, and the director and all related personnel were taken in for questioning. Those two once arrogant teachers were utterly disgraced. What awaited them was the full penalty of the law and a long prison sentence. The day I was buried, a light drizzle was falling over New York. Ethan held Sophie's hand. The two figures, one large and one small, stood quietly before my gravestone for a long, long time. I saw Sophie carefully place the picture she had drawn of our family of 3 in front of the gravestone, then stand on her tiptoes to kiss my photo on the cold stone. I saw Ethan take off his overcoat and gently wrap it around his daughter's small body. Then, with the pat of his finger, he softly caressed my name, the sorrow in his eyes so thick it was suffocating. I brushed my hand over the man's deep-set eyes and kissed the top of my daughter's soft hair. At that moment, the obsessions and lingering regrets in my heart finally, completely dissipated. Beep! 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 The shrill sound of the alarm clock jolted me from the chaos. My eyes flew open to the sight of the familiar, yellowed ceiling of my Brooklyn rental. I turned my head and saw my daughter sleeping soundly beside me, a sweet smile on her little face as if she were having a pleasant dream. I reached out, stroking her warm cheek in disbelief. It was real. I glanced at the calendar on the nightstand, and my heart began to pound. Today was the day I had died suddenly. I had been reborn. Without hesitation, I picked up my phone and sent resignation texts to all my part-time jobs. Then I turned off all my alarms, lay back down, and hugged my daughter tightly, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat and breath. It was the most peaceful sleep I'd had in ages. That afternoon, I arrived at the preschool right on time. I carefully checked my daughter's body, and after confirming she had no marks or bruises, I took her skipping hand ready to leave. A black Maybach pulled up silently in front of me. The door opened, and Ethan Hayes stepped out. His eyes were bloodshot. He stared at me, his voice hoarse as he demanded, "Chloe Miller, after hiding from me for all these years, you finally decide to show up?" I looked at him in silence. "I'm asking you, whose child is this?" he demanded, pointing at Sophie, his voice holding a tremor he himself didn't seem to notice. I looked into it. "You haven't been with any man for the past 5 years." Sophie hid behind me, peeking out to study him curiously. "Mommy," she whispered, "he looks like the man in the picture in your drawer." I glanced at the man before me, who looked both angry and wronged, and smiled before crouching down to pick up my daughter. "Sophie, didn't Mommy tell you that when your daddy made lots and lots of money, he would come back for us in a really cool car?" I looked at my daughter, then back at Ethan, and said clearly, word by word, "See? He's back now." Ethan froze. Ecstasy flashed in his eyes, but he stubbornly turned his head away and scoffed. "Who knows if you're not just trying to latch on to me for my money again?" With that, he turned and pulled open the car door, but when he heard no movement behind him, he turned back, deflated. After his eyes met my smiling gaze, he finally dropped the act and strode over. He reached out with one long arm, sweeping Sophie into his embrace. With his other hand, he took mine, holding it tightly, so tightly, and led us toward the car that symbolized his current status. "Running off with my daughter for 5 years, that's a debt," he said, tucking us into the car. He then leaned close to my ear, his voice a possessive yet aggrieved whisper meant only for me. "We're going home to settle the score."